Well, first of all, I want to thank you guys for joining us today. I'm really excited. Mike and I have a lot of good information that we love to share with people. So today our focus is going to be on how to reduce anxiety, allergies, ADD, or even seizures. These are some challenges that seem to be more and more common in a lot of families, whether it be with kids or with parents or anyone. And really, this information is valuable for just overall health and happiness. So let's go ahead and get started. See if I get this. So if you're anything like me, you probably want your kids to smile often and laugh easily and just really overall be happy. You know, be the kind of kid that can walk into a room and have confidence and not be worried about worst case scenario and what's going to go wrong or how things can, you know, everyone's picking on them. You want, most importantly, your child to be vibrant and free of any physical or emotional health challenge, especially any chronic health challenge or something that would require, you know, ongoing symptoms and medication. We want our kids to have a good life, right? I mean, we all do. So that's not always the case. When we have someone in our family that is struggling with anxiety, that's struggling with ADD and has challenges in school or getting their homework done, staying focused, someone that has seizures like my daughter did, sometimes you have sleepless nights or you just have those moments where you're uncertain as a parent about how best you can help your child. And we want to help you feel that it doesn't have to be the challenge, the sadness, right? There doesn't have to be the worry about my child can't eat the same foods as their kid at the next birthday party, or I have to have a response plan in place in case another seizure is going to happen. I don't know what's going to trigger it. Or even the frustration and the irritation we feel when it seems like our child is always like doomsday. Everything's like negative and, you know, worst case scenario, and you kind of find yourself getting impatient. I can't speak for you, but in my situation, I found myself getting impatient. Be like, come on, just look at the light at the end of the tunnel sometimes. It's really sad and hard and annoying. And we want to be able to turn that all around so that your child can feel the best that they ever have, right? That you don't have to worry about reading and scanning every food label for a dangerous ingredient, or keep a stockpile of Kleenex boxes or EpiPens in your house because you don't know when the next allergic reaction is going to take place. Or in my situation, have the backup of seizure medication that was really uncomfortable to administer, but I never knew when her seizure was going to happen. Or even have your child have an easier time learning in school and not to feel like they're different from their peers or they feel bad about themselves, right? A lot of times kids that struggle with anxiety or ADD have situations where they just don't feel as comfortable in their own skin. So I want to tell you a little tip about what is happening currently if there is a challenge for your child or for anyone in your family. There is something that is chaotic about the internal environment of that person's body. And when I say chaotic, meaning there's something that's causing a symptom, whether it be an allergic reaction, whether it be anxious thoughts, whether it be difficulty staying focused and concentrating, or in our case, a seizure. You know, there's some type of imbalance in the internal biochemical environment of that person's body that's causing the symptom. And the key is to simply shift that internal environment. Because once you change that environment, the symptom is mitigated, it's gone. But I want you to know it's not your fault, it's not your child's fault. There's nothing wrong with you or your child or your family or anything that caused this symptom. And it's simply a matter of knowing what information and what valuable parts of our daily lives can change that internal environment. So are you interested in finding out how we can turn this all around? Yes, absolutely, right? Of course we do. So it's a simple change. Like I said, it's that changing of the internal environment, the biochemical environment. And if you're wondering how I know all of this and how Mike and I discovered this, is through our own personal experience. And this is my daughter, Julia. I always get emotional. Sorry. So we have 4 daughters, and a few years back, she started having seizures. And it seemed at the time to be completely out of the blue. We didn't understand this. It seemed like a perfectly healthy child. How is she suddenly having seizures? And it really threw us for a loop, and we took her to the emergency room. She was hospitalized for 4 days, and during that period of time, they ran every single test you can imagine, EEGs, MRIs, CAT scans, everything you can imagine to try and determine the cause of these seizures. And in her situation, there was no physical evidence to explain what was triggering a seizure. Sometimes with seizures or different things, there's a development in the brain or something in the body physically that they can detect that causes that internal chaotic environment, and then there's an explanation. In her case, it wasn't, and we were told sometimes these things just happen. As oftentimes many parents with children with ADD, sometimes these things are genetic. Sometimes they just happen. Sometimes people with allergies are told the same thing. You know, we don't have a definitive explanation. And that totally just, I'm gonna be candid, that pissed me off. Like, that did not settle as a parent to be like, what do you mean you don't have an answer? I don't understand that. There has to be something we're missing. There's something to some piece of the puzzle that is not complete here. So, you know, over the next 4 months, our lives were completely turned upside down. I'm going to give you a little bit of background, and the reason that I had such a strong, if you want to call it a mother's intuition or a gut instinct about something else that was missing, is because the 48 hours before her first seizure were very unusual for Julia. She had been at a camp out, a sleep out for 2 consecutive nights, and was up really late. She, of course, was eating a ton of crappy food. You know, all the kids and all their friends are eating a whole bunch of sugary stuff, and there was what do you call it, like a bungee type of a ride that she was really scared to do, but she didn't want to be left out, so she was crying and she was fearful, and her emotions were really, talk about anxiety, right? She was totally feeling worried about doing it, but she's like, I don't want to feel left out, the only kid that's not going to do it, so she did it. They also had a rock concert with strobe lights and stuff. So mindless, or the moral of the story is, I knew there was something emotionally, physically, all of these things that were contributing to that initial episode. Now, granted, since then, the seizures continued to persist. And this was another thing. She was in the hospital for 4 days. And every single time the group of doctors, it was a teaching hospital down at Lurie Children's, would be on rounds, and they would come into the room, that was when she would have a seizure. And the other 23 hours and 58 minutes out of the day, she didn't. But for 4 days in a row, finally that last day, I was like, you guys are not allowed to come into the room. Clearly, and I was asking for an explanation about why, there's something clearly about her worry, her anxiety, her emotional state that's contributing to this, and really, with no fault of their own, there's not hard evidence that you can diagnostically tie onto an MRI or an EEG to someone's emotional, internal biochemical balance. So the next 4 months were completely difficult for our family because she continued to have anywhere from 10 to 15 seizures in a day. Some days like this was after she had back-to-back episodes that they just continued to get more progressive. And our whole entire family's life was just put on hold, right? I mean, I was living in eggshells. I had 3 little girls that I felt so guilty about because I couldn't give any attention to, because my oldest daughter, at a moment's notice, I never knew what was going to trigger the next episode. There was a day where I pulled her up from the bottom of my parents' swimming pool. There was a day where she fell over. She was up in her room just getting ready for the day, fell over and cracked her head on the mirror. So I never knew when a life-threatening situation could present itself. And during that time, I don't know if you want to come up, Mike, you should tell. So during that time, our family was under major stress. And you want to talk about the biochemistry of the body changing when there's stress in the body. This is another example. So share a little bit about your experience.
Sure. Why don't I just take 5 minutes and explain, what happened to me personally. You heard my daughter's side, which really kicked it all off. But for me personally, I was a trader down at the Board of Trade for about 17 years, and I was living that fast life, whatever you want to call it. My wife was in the health world for 10, 15 years at this point, and I always thought it was all foo-foo, garbage. I'm going to the doctor, give me a pill, yada, yada, yada. And so, one day I finally got my break as a trader. I was asked to go over to a large financial firm downtown to manage a $1 billion hedge fund over there. This was my big opportunity, my break. I'm going to play with the big boys, hit it big, and sail out in the sunset with gazillion dollars, you know, that's what was going through my mind. But when I got over there, it wasn't all roses, okay? The markets got really tough, and for about 3 years, we didn't make any money. And so during that time, the stress level's up, I'm answering to clients and not myself anymore, and people want returns. And so, you know, it ended up being more nights out, steak dinners, bottles of wine. I would go to bed at 10 o'clock at night, and I would wake up at midnight and 1 o'clock in the morning 3-4 times a week to trade the currency markets all night. Then I'd go to the office, trade all day. I'd come home and eat dinner, go to, you know, put the kids to bed and do the same thing all over again. So my lifestyle wasn't very good, and I was the guy who always thought stress was literally a made-up word that the doctors used when they didn't know what was wrong with you. So one day, I have an annual boys outing in Door County, a golfing outing with the guys, and I'm up there, and it's a bender weekend. There's a lot of drinking, a lot of smoking, gambling, eating like crap, not sleeping, you know. So, you know, I mean, that was me back then, and on the third morning before the tournament, I remember I'm on the 5th hole. There was about a 4-foot putt in front of me. It was a big putt. I had to make it, and if I missed it, we lost. And it wasn't much money on the line. I mean, so I don't know what it was, but I got all nervous over it. And I remember I ended up draining the putt, and I walked off the hole, and I had my bottle of water, and my arm started shaking like this, and water started going all over the place. I'm going, oh, you know, what is that? It was kind of weird, just a couple seconds, and going, that was weird. Look at my buddy. I go, you see that? He goes, yeah. He goes, don't worry. We've just been drinking a lot. You got the shakes. He's like, just start cracking beers now. You'll feel good, you know. And it's 7:30 in the morning, right? And I'm looking at him going, you know, you're right. I just got to, get back going in the bandwagon. And so, you know, we did that, and I went the whole day, whole night, drinking since 7 in the morning till now it's 3 o'clock in the morning, and I'm at the bar, and you know, this is what really changed. At that point, the whole left side of my body goes completely numb, and I lost all bodily function on the left side. I'm holding a drink, it starts flashing, you know, flying all over the bar like that, and it felt like it lasts forever. I don't know how long it was, maybe 60 seconds or something, but that moment completely changed my life. And you know, I didn't know if I should go to the hospital, if I should try to sleep it off. All I knew was I was going home in a couple hours anyway, so I just kind of, you know, tried to go to bed. It didn't happen, and I finally went home, and for the next 12 months of my life, it was, I mean, I wasn't the same person. It was completely awful. And like I said, I didn't believe in any of the health stuff, so I went the whole Western route of society, where I went to every doctor, every specialist. They ran every test in the book. I ended up in the emergency room a few times.
Heart attacks on multiple occasions.
Yeah,
and this was all during the time that Julia's health was, I mean, talk about a whirlwind of decline for a family. I mean, this is
going on all during that, and you know, the doctors are, you know, just looking at me saying, you know, you're fine, but I wasn't fine. I would literally be sitting in my office at work, and I had, I don't know, about 6 computer screens in front of me, and I would freak out so bad. I'd have to get up, physically remove myself, take the elevator down 14 flights of stairs, and I'd walk around the block literally 100 times till I can breathe and calm myself down and even get back up to my office. So finally, after 12 months, even that whole breaking point, that wasn't the point. And I remember looking at myself in the mirror, and this is the point that changed my life. I just said, I can't live like this anymore. And you know, that's when I finally turned to my wife, and I said, you know, this, for the first time in my life, I understand why someone would take their own lives, okay? And so,
yeah, his anxiety got out of control.
Yeah.
So when he talks about understanding how to live, what it's like to live with anxiety, like, you know, he can speak to it himself. And also during that time, the last final catapult was that I had been diagnosed with an autoimmune condition during my 4th pregnancy. A lot of you know that I have 4 little girls. And it was something that I, like Mike meant, I have been in health and nutrition and fitness for years and a decade, and I was working with a functional medicine doctor, holistic doctors, taking supplements, doing all the natural things I was trying to do to balance my hormone, and it was okay. But then when the stress came with Mike and with Julia's health crisis, my autoimmune body numbers were like skyrocketing off the charts. 2 different doctors said, I've never seen someone with this severe of a case. So we were a train wreck. And then one phone call literally changed our entire life. It was the starting point of starting to see things and get that glimmer of hope to put the pieces of the puzzle together. A friend of mine had referred a nutritionist to me, and I thought at first, I'm like, I know a lot about nutrition. I've been studying nutrition. I eat healthy. I don't understand what is going to be different that she can educate me, but sure enough, it's not going to hurt. So made the phone call, and she was the first one that started to bring this awareness about understanding the internal environment, the biochemistry of our body, because she, randomly enough, had a background steeped in biochemistry. She was in the armed services, and that was her technical degree. She had a life story where she had saved her daughter and her whole entire family's life after 8 different specialists told her daughter would be dead within 1 year because of her extreme poisoning and toxicity. So she knew firsthand how to change the biochemistry of the human body. So that was the first step, and her focus, like I said, was primarily on nutrition. Nutrition plays a huge part, and what we later then went to discover is that that's only a part. So the doorway was open for us, right? Within this deepening understanding of the extensive information we've since learned, there is a huge opportunity to completely change the internal environment of somebody who is currently experiencing a symptom or a challenge that they would like to reverse. In less than a year's time, my daughter went from being on 4 different seizure medications to 0 and has been completely symptom-free. In fact, her pediatric neurologist said, I have never seen such recovery with this speed. And he said to her on her last appointment, Julia, I am so proud of you for what you have done, and I will never see you again. Thank you. Take care. I hope others can learn from this. Mike's anxiety completely cleared up. He also had lifelong allergies that he's had since he was a kid. He used to get weekly allergy shots. Those are no longer an issue. Actually, I shouldn't say no longer. Every once in a while, when you kind of don't take as good care of yourself, that's his body's like weak point, right? He knows that kind of he'll get a little itchy nose and stuff, and he's like, oh, I need to kind of make sure I'm getting my rest and taking care of my body's environment. My autoimmune condition, a thing of the past. And again, this is something that you don't necessarily always hear. Doctors told me that I would be on medication for life. I'm not. So it is possible to have tremendous healing when you can factor in the internal environment. And I want to share with you this great analogy that was really powerful. Another coach that we work with, Fabienne Fredrickson, talks about entelechy. And she uses the example of an acorn, because entelechy is defined as the realization of potential. So think about an acorn, right? An acorn is this tiny little thing that when it's placed in a proper environment with nourished soil and sunlight and water, it naturally is just going to grow into a magnificent oak tree. So this tiny little thing has an amazing potential inside of it. That is just like your child, right? They have the potential for ultimate health, vibrant health, and a full life where they feel completely confident and better than maybe they even are at right now or than you can expect. However, if that same acorn falls and lands in the middle of a parking lot, the environment there is not going to support anything. It's going to stay exactly as it is. Nothing's going to change. And that same thing is true for our family members, right? If nothing changes in their environment internally, then it's going to be the exact same situation that they're experiencing now. So it's really helpful to understand that this one simple shift, I'm not going to tell you that it's easy, but it's simple and it's understandable. To shift the internal biochemical environment that your body is in, because every single cell responds to the hormones, the enzymes, the nutrients, and all of the information that are in your body. And that's how your cells know how to function. So what are the things? These are the things we discovered that impact our internal environment. There are 5 things, so feel free to write these down so you can always have them handy. They are your nutrition, your relationships in your life, or in other words, I like to think of that as the way you feel understood and loved for who you are. The downtime or recovery time in your life, the activity, the movement, and your beliefs. And your beliefs are really impactful for kind of getting to that place of optimism and confidence rather than doubt and uncertainty.
And before you go on, I just want to say, these all play a big part on it. But for me personally, the two that played the biggest role was actually the healing part. When I learned that my body needs 7 hours of sleep every night, I can't go on 2 or 3, the downtime. That was huge for me to feel great and wake up to give my best, whether it was a relationship, work, or to my kids, whatever it was. And the other thing was a relationship. In all honesty, when I figured out how do you say, my wife's love language, let's put it that way. When I figured out how she understood love and I actually started giving it to her, it changed the dynamic with us, and my health really spiraled in the right direction in that regard too. So those were the two biggies that changed me, and everyone's going to be a little different, but they all play a major role.
They do, and what I think is interesting is I think a lot of times it's an easy thought to get to the awareness that nutrition impacts how we feel and how our bodies work, right? So nutrition is, I don't want to say it's a no-brainer, but it's a very easy connection for people to usually make. But taking it further into prioritizing the recovery, the downtime, the type and amount of activity, and like Mike said, the communication and your relationships and how you feel and experience and express love within yourself and with others. So I just want to share a little bit about some quotes from people that we have worked with, just so you can kind of get a flavor for what has happened. Michelle says, before working with you, I didn't understand why my daughter was so sensitive and had trouble remembering things. These things, as well as her ADD, made school a challenge. Now I understand it and know how to support her. Every month our lives continue to get easier. Thank you. And then Beth says, my son's anxiety used to be a daily issue. Getting him to school in the morning was really tough because he would be so worried about everything. What if I don't understand the math worksheet? What if my friend doesn't want to play with me at recess? We used to have so many fights because I would be irritated and couldn't understand his irrational worries. I felt guilty too, like I somehow wasn't doing the best I could because he was so anxious. I'm so grateful for your help. Now I understand what was going on inside his body, and it's amazing how when I started to have less guilt about how his behavior and his anxiety seemed to melt away. We are a completely different family now because of working with you. So, I want to help you guys create that type of plan for your families. So if you have a worksheet, I think I don't know if, did I give, or you can,
No.
So we're going to fill out some brainstorming, because really, this is where the magic comes in. And this is what I was so thankful to discover, because you, as your child's parent, have this unique opportunity because, quite frankly, you know the most about your child. You have been by them every single day of their life, and you are the expert in your child. So you know about their daily nutrition, their relationships, their activity, their downtime, and their beliefs. So you know more than anyone. And the power is within those components to change their internal environment and to change their symptoms. All right, so we're going to take a moment here, and I'm going to explain how you fill this out. So in this worksheet, we want to take a look at those 5 areas. We'll give you 10 minutes or sort of, if you don't get something for every area today, don't worry about it. You can take it with you and keep brainstorming. But think of things that your child or your family does that you really enjoy. Things that are like you can't wait, you look forward to, that you are really excited about. And also things that promote health. So these are things that you would do all day long if there was no obligation, no work. These are things that you would do and you know that are good for you and your child all the time. Put in this first box. Now in this box are things that are tolerable. You'd probably rather not do them all the time, but you do them because you know they're good for you. Or you have your child do them because you know they're good for your child, right? They're going to promote their health, whether it be something that they're going to eat, or the fact that maybe their downtime is they're going to go to bed at a certain time, right? I'm going to give an example of some of these when I share mine, but think of things that are tolerable and that promote health. And now I want you to think of things that are enjoyable, that you do, but kind of guilty pleasures, right? That you do, but you know that they take away from health, either for you or for your child. And then eventually these are the things that we do mostly out of obligation. We do because we feel like we have to, even though we know that when you're doing something out of obligation and guilt, it really is detracting from your health. It's definitely not improving relationships. It's definitely not giving your body less stress and downtime. It's actually negative in the overall scheme of things. So see if you can we'll give you about 5 to 8 minutes here, and just really brainstorm, and then I'll share some things for our family to kind of give you more ideas. Okay, so you can definitely take this home with you and feel free to continue to add into this, because this is going to be really helpful. I'll share just some of the things that are true for our family. And now, obviously, every situation is different, so by no means is there a wrong or right answer to any of this. It's what relates to your family. And even within your children, there's differences. So some things, like, for example, my daughter Julia, one of the things that is enjoyable that also promotes health is she absolutely loves to cook. And when we can cook together, that's like so fun for her. She loves to come up with creative meal options, and of course then we end up eating healthier because it's homemade food and it's things that she enjoys. So cooking together. Our other daughter Isabel is like our cuddle bug. She's the one that wants to be in your lap. Sometimes I feel like she literally cannot get closer to me. She's like on me all the time. So cuddle time with her is really enjoyable and totally promotes her health because it's calming for the nervous system and that downtime we were talking about. Bike rides to the park are things that all of our kids like to do and have fun. My youngest daughter Taylor is 4, and she likes to play this like no laughing game, in the car or something silly where we're like, don't laugh and make silly faces and stuff. So simple little things like this. Swim practice is something that Julia and Isabel look forward to. They feel, like they're getting stronger and they can see a benefit and they like that. Another thing about our beliefs, we often talk about what we want and how we will feel when we have that in our lives. So really kind of reinforcing positive expectation and what the girls are grateful for on a daily basis. Some of the things that I would say in our family that the girls would say are tolerable, and we do them because I know that they're good for us, but they wouldn't necessarily do it on their own all the time, is eating beans. Well, you guys hear me talk about it in class all the time, the importance of soluble fiber to help clear out our body's detoxification. That is a huge impact on part of the internal environment with the nutrition side. Quiet reading time. Isabel is more kind of my go, go, go girl. So for her downtime is just having her snuggle up in bed with me and read, together. She reads her book, I read my book. It wouldn't be the thing she would pick to do. She'd rather sit in front of the TV, but she's happy because she knows that's tolerable and is really good. Gardening, again, Julia is my gardener. She loves to, even if it's picking weeds, I'll be like, come on, Julia, we gotta go pick weeds. Doesn't love the weeds part, but tolerable, but she knows it's really good for us. Giving thanks before meals. Sometimes the girls just want to dive in and eat, and we're starving. And I'm like, okay, but we always give thanks. We want to take a moment to kind of slow down and check in because we know it's good for us. It calms, kind of allows our body to be prepared to absorb what we're going to eat. Another thing that we do is when two sisters cannot get along and are arguing or picking on each other, it's like, okay, isolation. You two sisters are alone in a room together until the two of you can figure out how to handle your relationship and treat each other with kindness. That's just a tactic that works for us. So those are some of the top 2 things that promote health with their relationships, with their nutrition, with their activity, their downtime, and their beliefs. The things that are enjoyable but that detract from our health are things like eating out at Buffalo Wild Wings. We think it's fun. We like to go there, but we don't do it every day because it's fried food and whatever, not the healthiest. Comparing. Sometimes some of my girls, they almost feel like it's weird, and I'm sure I can relate to this, is you almost feel like you'll feel better about yourself if you compare with others, but really that actually ends up weakening the relationship between people. So we talk a lot about how you may think it feels better in the moment, but overall it's really detracting from your health. Sleepovers. The girls love sleepovers. It's a big treat. Staying up late is not necessarily the best thing for their health, but hey, you got to do them on occasion, right? Intense exercise. For me personally, that was a huge part of healing my Hashimoto's. I used to teach the cardio kickbox classes and the boot camp classes, but that intense type of exercise for my biochemistry really did not support. It was too much adrenaline promoting. It did not support my best health. Hours and hours of TV, right? That's something that Avery, I think our third daughter, would sit in front of the TV and have that be her downtime, just watch movie after movie, but she enjoys it. We do it to some extent, but not too much that it detracts from health. And I would say that I am a control enthusiast, not a control freak. I've gotten a lot better, but I used to be a control enthusiast, trying to kind of manage schedules for my kids and where we're going and stuff. And as I've allowed that to kind of loosen up, because I recognize that that really causes, or used to cause, a lot of internal stress on my life. Some of the things that really are not good at all, and we try and avoid because they're detracting from health and they're not really even that tolerable or enjoyable for us in the experience, is overscheduled weekends. I can't speak to anyone else's desire or comment about this, but for us, when we used to have 3 and 4 and 5 birthday parties and events in a weekend, it just got to the point of where they felt like obligations, and it really wasn't helping anybody's health in the long run. Losing patience. I am guilty as charged. When I feel tired or when I feel like my gas tank is on empty, I just didn't have the patience to be the kind of mom that I wanted to show up to for my girls, and that impacted everyone. Another example of this is Taylor's gymnastics class, right? So I thought it would be good for her to be in gymnastics. Her older sisters had done it. I'm like, she's 4, or she was 3 and a half at the time, she's gonna like this. And I used to like sign her up, make her go, and she didn't really want to do gymnastics. You know, like for her, it was not tolerable and it wasn't enjoyable. And because it was not, it was detracting from her health. So rather than have a battle every time we were getting in the car to be like, come on, I don't want to be late, and she was dilly-dallying, it's like, why are we doing this? You know, what is the benefit here? And then I guess feeling rushed and overwhelmed. I think that used to be a staple in our life. Looking at it, hindsight is 20/20, right? That used to be kind of the standard mode of operation was, hurry up, we have to get out the door for school, and we have to go here after school, and we have to do that. And that overall, I at the time thought it was tolerable, but it really detracted from the health of everyone in the family. So those are just some ideas from, again, this is my example. Everyone's is unique, so that's why you know the most about your child and you know the most about your family dynamic and what really is enjoyable in terms of your nutrition, your relationships, your downtime, the type of activity and the amount of activity, and the beliefs that you have and how that comes into your life. So I know that that's not always easy to shift all of these things. If you look at your sheet and continue to flesh this out, the goal here to really see a substantial shift, especially if a member of your family is in a place that you would like to have different, is to move to have 90% of your time and energy in those first 2 boxes. And then 10%, or maybe start with 80-20, but ideally 10% is the bottom 2 boxes, right? Of course, we all have some things that are gonna detract from our health. That's a part of life. But the more you can place yourself intentionally in these top 2 boxes, the more you are choosing with awareness to change that internal environment for not only you, but for your family. Right? Now that's not always easy for people to do, is to shift their nutrition, to shift their relationships or how they are patient with each other in their family, to shift the downtime and the balance of your schedule. You may be like, how do I give up something? This is what we do and this is what we've always done, right? And so I want to share with you 3 steps, so hopefully it won't take you 2 years or longer to really bring into your life that can expedite that shift for you. There are 3 key elements that we have found to be absolutely crucial to really sustain the shift. And the first thing is a proven step-by-step strategy, right? No one wants to go home and throw out everything out of your pantry and get all different food and then have a revolt from your husband and your kids. That is definitely not low stress, and that is definitely not going to be sustainable, right? So you want to think about, maybe I can make one real food swap this week every day, and then maybe next week it can be something different. You want to take step-by-step gradual changes with a proven strategy that has already worked for many, and bring that into your life, because having that support and having that kind of that process is really powerful, and it makes it sustainable. The second thing is a stretch in beliefs about what is possible. I mean, quite honestly, oftentimes the more that we have experienced life in a certain way, the more that we accept that that is the way life is. I mean, I can speak from Mike's example too. Like, he always thought he would always have allergies, because he did always have allergies for 30 years, right? He didn't, over 30 years. He didn't really know that there could be another way of living. So the longer you are experiencing something, the more likely that is kind of a deep-rooted belief about the way things are. And it's important to surround yourself with stories, with real-life examples, with people that you can go to that have overcome or changed that belief, because the more you can see that and start to experience that, the more you start to change your belief about what's possible, right? So having that stretch in belief, that strong positive mindset is so helpful. And the third thing is a loving and supportive tribe to hold you accountable and to allow you to feel that you're never alone ever again. Because let's be honest, I sometimes refer to our normal, typical life as the Muggle world. Anyone know Harry Potter? Like, there are so many distractions and so many influences that take us away from these top two areas of our lives, really focusing on what it is in terms of the nutrition, the connections, the downtime, and the type of activity that really empowers our best health and happiness. So having a tribe, and even having someone that lovingly will say, hey, I see you, if you start to take steps backward into those old habits, and say, what's going on? Let's figure out a new strategy. To have someone there to just always be by your side so you're not alone. That's the key. So when you can have these three things in your life, you are guaranteed to change your child's health or your own health for good. I'm telling you, it's sustainable, it works, and it's a simple shift. It's just a matter of surrounding yourself with these three elements and making that happen. So I want to tell you, before, this was important to us. So when you think about where you're going to put your time and your energy and your money to make these things happen, right? You want to have it work. You don't want to do something. I mean, how many people have tried a diet and it worked for the 2 months that you were on the diet, and then you're like, dude, I can't live like this for a life. This is not going to work for the rest of my life. You want to know that if you're going to invest your time and energy and money into something, you're going to get your return. For us with Julia, we knew that I would not have been satisfied with less than 100% return. I wanted her to be seizure-free again. I didn't want her to have a 6% return like some people want in the stock market. I don't want her to go from 10 seizures a day to 8 seizures a day. I would not have been happy with that. So we knew that we need to have at least 100% return on our investment. If we were going to put our time and money and energy into making changes in our lives, we wanted no less than 100%, and let alone, we were so thankful that it ended up being a 200% or more return. Like, Mike and I had no expectation when we started our journey to heal Julia that my autoimmune condition would be healed, his anxiety, his allergies would be healed. Our other daughter, Avery, had chronic eczema that was just kind of always would crop up in the winter, her autoimmune situation. That is a thing in the past. So not only that, we're stronger and more connected than we ever have been as a family. So that, in my opinion, that's like well above 100% return on the investment, right? And so in order for us to be able to help other people have at least a 200% return on their time and their energy that they put into something, we have created the Hinman Family Health Method, which is our proprietary system that has all three of those key essential elements in supporting with community, positive mindset, and a proven strategy step by step. So just to share some other people that we've worked with after almost 5 years of navigating my son's sensitivity to dairy and gluten, we finally have an answer that both works and makes sense. As a registered nurse, it is important to me to understand the science behind the choices I make for my kids' health. There's no hocus pocus behind their advice and their questions and concerns that many parents face. Mike and Amanda are now my son's heroes. He can tolerate gluten and dairy and feels great too. In addition to their dietary advice, they help give my family some powerful tools to strengthen our family, be clear about the direction we are moving in, and how to deal with common struggles that we parents experience. Thank you for helping us learn to listen to our inner voice in a world that easily distracts you from it. Jeannie L. And then Maria says, my son was diagnosed with Crohn's disease at age 2. My husband and I were devastated and determined to find a way so that he could heal and didn't have to take steroid medication for life. The amazing thing is your strategy is simple and just makes sense. Once we had the confidence to believe it was possible to change his health for good and the support to make it happen, it was a no-brainer. So happy to share that he is now completely healthy with no sign of Crohn's disease. So I just want to say, if this message resonates with you, if it's something that you would like to, explore and find out, how can I have the support? Because sometimes doing all of these changes on our own is challenging, right? If just do the work, that's the key to get it done. If you could just take this sheet and add on it and do it, that will change your child's internal environment, and that will change their life. But you may be in a situation where you're like, man, I don't know if I can do all of that alone. I mean, some of the people that we've helped, that's exactly what they were thinking. So I want to let you know that I'm accessible, right? I'm here to provide support and to help encourage in any way that I can. If you are interested and this message resonates with you, I'd like to offer a free Vibrant Health call. In that call, it's a 40-minute call where we will dive deeper about the specific concern or challenge that you have and really get crystal clear about the vision that you want for your child or for your family member that's different from today. And also have kind of, that uncover what those hidden challenges are. What is slowing down the progress? Why are you not currently where you would like to be in the future? We'll talk about that and really uncover that. And then finally leave the call completely inspired and energized with new information on how you can go forward. And if it makes sense, I can share a little bit more about how we have helped to provide service to some of the other people that you've heard from.